Well, hey everybody, John Rethlin here, and this is Hashtag Ask for Honesty, episode 10. Yep, more questions, and thank you guys so much for the great questions for this episode and the previous episodes. And just fellow wrestling fan and YouTube content creator, to all our fellow wrestling fans and YouTube content creators, thank you guys so much for the support. I really do appreciate it, whether it's these videos, other solo videos, or videos myself and the Durbinator do, or a combination of all of them. Thank you guys so much for the support. I do this for fun. I do this to entertain you guys. I do it to entertain myself. So thank you guys. Thank you guys so much. And if you want to send a question, hit me up in the comments and leave a question. I will include it in the next episode, or hit me up on Twitter. And, hit me up in DM if you can, and send me 3 to 4 questions maximum. I really don't want to answer any more than that to give everybody equal time. And if you guys send me 5 questions, just don't be surprised if I blitz through a couple of them. Or check the 2 pinned tweets that I'll put up Tuesday mornings, Thursday mornings, respectively. The Tuesday morning one will be done. Those questions will be answered Wednesday, much like I'm doing right here. And the Thursday morning one will be done Friday night and be uploaded Saturday morning. So just want to say that right there, and let's just get on with it with AJA T800. What are your top 10 favorite TV shows of all time? Number 1 is Twilight Zone. I can always watch Twilight Zone episodes. I have to watch at least 3. No matter, if I only have about an hour and a half to kill, I have to watch 3. I don't know why, but it's like potato chips. You just can't eat just one. So that one's my number 1 show of all time. American Horror Story, Animaniacs, Ninja Turtles, the Power Rangers, till about just after the first movie, until about the Turbo phase. So about the first, 3-4 years, something like that. The Legend of Zelda cartoon is always pretty cheesy. Super Mario Bros. Super Show, even though that was ridiculous, it's a nostalgia thing for me. The first 2 seasons of Roswell. The first 2 seasons of Dawson's Creek. And I know I'm kind of nitpicking here. NCIS would be one. Animaniacs, Tiny Toons. I even like Freakazoid. That was a weird show. But other ones like that, there was a show called Freaky Links that came out for a little bit. It was from the creators of the Blair Witch Project, trying to capitalize on that. And that didn't last very long. It was about 2 guys that they were trying to investigate, horror stuff on a website. So it was weird. I need to see if that's actually out on DVD at some point, or Blu-ray, and actually see if that show's as good as I remember, or if I just like the marketing campaign. More than likely just like the marketing campaign. Angel, Buffy. And then if you go old school episodes or old school shows, MASH. MASH is always pretty entertaining. I did like Frasier. Friends, Seinfeld, they sucked. I hate Friends and Seinfeld. Sorry any Friends Seinfeld fans that are watching this, but I hated those. I hate them 100%. But Archer would be on there also, but number 1 would have to be Twilight Zone. I'll probably do a full-scale list of this at some point. And then, of course, Scooby-Doo. Also, I have to include the original Scooby-Doo. Not a pup named Scooby-Doo. 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo was okay. It wasn't great. That's where I kind of started to not care about the show. Granted, at the time when I was a kid, I sort of enjoyed it. But then again, I, was stupid when I was a kid. As opposed to being the smart adult that I am now, talking here on the YouTubes. But this will be a question I will probably do a full-scale video on at some point. But yes, number 1, unless I just can suddenly think of another one, number 1's got to be the Twilight Zone. So I'll probably do this down the road at some point, maybe come up with the top 20 favorite TV shows. But I would have to look at all the TV shows and even see if I could come up with the top 20. I may just do a top 10. But I hope I answered that question there. Those are some of my favorite TV shows. Twilight Zone being number 1. Then Critical Sting on YouTube. Do you find it annoying when somebody gets written off by ignorance in the wrestling community for having a gimmick similar to someone else, but the wrestlers are actually totally different? I noticed it recently with Kylie Ray, Smiling Kylie Ray, and Bayley. Now, I don't know who did the gimmick first. I don't have a clue. Okay, I don't know. I'm thinking that Bayley had the gimmick first. Maybe Kylie Ray's been working longer. I don't know. I'm not here to presume that. Because it's really hard to tell. You would have to do interviews, have them sit face to face and everything and figure that out. But those gimmicks are similar. There were people that were saying that Sting was a ripoff, Sting's new gimmick was a ripoff of The Undertaker, even though it was a ripoff of Brandon Lee's The Crow. You can see other people, saying, oh, this gimmick on the Indies is just like this one guy or girl that's on a bigger platform in a bigger company. you're going to get that a lot. Like back in the territory days and everything, there were people that would, there were promoters that would have, people very similar to others that were in bigger promotions as a way to draw one or two houses to fool fans. And then they would actually kind of piss off the fans because it'd be like, well, they lied to us, so we don't want to have them there. Yeah, you got like the free, it maybe not quite the same, but you got the Freebirds, the original Freebirds, and then you got Michael Hayes and Jimmy Jam Garvin as, the Freebirds, and even though they weren't the Freebirds, Hayes was an original Freebird. It does annoy me, especially if the performers are different. Now, if everything is so goddamn similar, and it's just copying, that's pretty shit, and that is pretty stupid, and I can understand people writing them off because of that. But there's a whole example, or a whole giant rant and everything, and giant video that we could do about people ripping off other wrestlers. Ric Flair took a lot of stuff from Nature Boy Buddy Rogers. And then you actually had, Buddy Landel, trying to be the Nature Boy, even though Buddy Landel wasn't very good. He could be, but he still wasn't very good compared to Ric Flair. Tons of other people did the whole robe thing, especially after Flair popularized the rhinestone robe thing, but Dusty Rhodes was doing that for a while. Hulk Hogan was essentially a ripoff of superstar Billy Graham, just with better wrestling and about the same amount of racism. But yeah, it annoys me. I understand it in some instances, but too often fans will just write off stuff. And this is coming from me because I tend to write off stuff a little too quickly. It does get a little bit irritating. I don't particularly like it though. As somebody that nitpicks some things, I can understand why some people do it. Some take it too far, but it annoys me if the performers are different. If they're so similar, I can kind of get why people do that. Even though some of them are just casting a role, especially like in WWE. And then we get Jeremy 8911. Do you think WWE should do a best of 7 series with Ricochet and Cesaro, leading to either of them getting a U.S. or Universal title shot or forming a tag team? And I know you pitched this before. Not knocking. I get your booking ideas. U.S. is very likely they could, get that. Universal, no goddamn chance anybody would buy either of them in a Universal title shot. I'm not knocking you, I'm just saying nobody would buy Cesaro or Ricochet competing for the Universal title, at least at this point. Build it up over a number of months, sure. But right now, I don't know how anybody could take these perennial mid-carders, talented as fuck as they are, as any kind of serious contender, even though they can both go in the rope or go between the ropes. Tag team is more likely, which means we're just going to be going right back to what we did with Cesaro. And Ricochet also was in a tag team before. He was in a tag team with Aleister Black for no reason. And Aleister Black's been relegated to just being in interviews on SmackDown for about the last 5 years. Actually, it's only been about the last 5-6 weeks. Actually, I know about the last 2 months, which is pretty fucking ridiculous. But the tag team is most likely. U.S. title shot, and then no chance a Universal thing happened. Best of 7, sure, why not? But I mean, at this point, you answered something like this, or you asked something like this similar, and I'm, again, not picking. I think they could do it as Stomping Grounds. They could start it there and have it culminate at SummerSlam. You would have to have Ricochet go over. I'm not writing Cesaro off, but Cesaro is almost 40. As good as he is, they have never seen big things in him. Like, they've had chance after chance after chance with the guy. I don't think that they're going to give him his just due. Ricochet's a little bit younger, so why not give him a shot? But they'll probably just end up forming a tag team. They'll win the tag titles once or twice or whatever, and both guys will not be better off for it. That's what I think they should do. Do I think they should do the best of 7 series? Sure. I just don't think they will. And at a freaky dude on Twitter, how would you book 4 horsewomen versus the 4 horsewomen? I wouldn't. Sasha may or may not come back to the company anytime soon. Duke and Spear are nowhere near ready. But if everything was all together and everything worked out so well, I would have it at Survivor Series this year. And I would have the 4 horsewomen of WWE go over. Because besides Ronda, who is much better in the ring than I expected her to be, and besides Shayna, who's good between the ropes, not so good on the mic, you got 4 women that can work pretty well. I mean, and you can debate how to rank the women as far as performances, or, how they perform in the ring. I mean, Charlotte, Becky, Bayley, and Sasha. But they're leagues ahead of, even though Ronda's pretty good and Shayna's pretty good, they're leagues ahead of where even Duke and Shafir will be in like 5 years, assuming that Duke and Shafir are even in WWE in 5 years. I would have the women go over. I would just have the WWE 4 horsewomen go over. That's just what I would do. That's how I'd book it. I'd book it as a fucking mess, because it would be a mess, and that's what I would do. And then after almost 22 years since Cornette did his rant on who is the icon of pro wrestling, how much of this rings true, especially the part about Hulk Hogan being as much of a household word as garbage. I encourage you guys to check this out about Cornette ranting about, wrestling. It was on a Raw episode, I believe. It pretty much holds true. Cornette's words tend to hold a lot of truth. I know that some people are down on Cornette because of stuff he said about AEW. That's fine. You can be that way if you want. But some of what Cornette has been saying has been holding goddamn true. So I'd say a lot of it. I'd say maybe 90% of it. Maybe not 100, but 90%. And final question from @AFreakyDude. If you had your own video equipment for live streaming video games with the Derb, what games would you most likely be playing in your own streams? I'd probably have an emulator. I'd play a bunch of side-scrolling beat-em-ups and some side-scrolling games, or I would play some Mario games. I'd maybe find a way to stream the entire Suikoden series, except maybe number 4, because we don't talk about that game. Final Fantasy 4 and Final Fantasy 6, 2 and 3 in the States. Mainly just to see if the whole part of the moon in Final Fantasy 2 could frustrate me. So it'd probably be a mix of RPGs and emulated games. I will probably never have that, even if I could afford it. I actually could afford it right now. I do want to clarify that. I just want to spend my money elsewhere, wrestling shirts and other things, paying my debts down and stuff like that, and going to indie wrestling shows. I like streaming, but it's just more fun to do it with the Derb. That's probably what I would do, though. And at WWE NXT guy with AEW, MLW, WWE, Impact, Ring of Honor, NXT, NXT UK, 205 Live, New Japan, Indies. Is there too much wrestling to watch nowadays? I think there is, only because I skip watching ROH, New Japan, Impact 90% of my free time. Yeah, pretty much if you want to keep up on everything, it's almost impossible to keep up on. And there's Stardom, and there's Shine, Shimmer, there's the NWA, and a whole bunch of other stuff. There's the other indie promotions, everything, Canadian indie promotion. There's indie promotions all over the goddamn world. It is hard to keep up with everything. It really, really is. I mean, I just reviewed WWE, New Japan, and I'm going to be starting to review AEW full-time when it goes to TNT. I don't know how long it's going to last, but who knows? I mean, I hope it lasts a while. But, yes, it is a lot to keep up on. I can't even review every single bit of New Japan. As far as WWE, you may have noticed the NXT 205 Live reviews got dropped. The view count, wasn't there, and just in general, it got to be covering too much damn wrestling, and free time is limited for myself and for the Derbnator. And that's just really what it comes down to. With MLW, what little bit I've seen of MLW, yes, it's very impressive. Ring of Honor's kind of fallen off the map, which is a shame given some of the talents they have. But yeah, it is a lot to keep up with. I have not watched a full episode of 205 Live in a while. Same with the full episode of NXT UK. Like the women's division and a few other things. But, British strong style and everything. But I just can't keep up. I don't have enough time to keep up. That's why I just record these shows on Wednesday and I watch NXT UK when I can. Watch it at work. Or just when, I got like a couple hours of free time and I can just blitz through about 3 episodes if I just, skip through, recaps and stuff like that. So yeah, there's a lot to keep up on. If you want to keep up on everything. Otherwise, pick the particular companies you like and it's good. But I do agree with you. There is a lot. And he says, do you think Asuka, Nakamura, Rusev, and Lana will be gone from WWE in 2020? Them and a lot of others. It depends on when the contracts are up. I would be very, very surprised if those names and a few others weren't gone unless they re-up their contracts. It's just, WWE has too many people, way too many, and it's gotten to the point where they just can't... they can't give enough TV time to people, especially with this whole wild card rule, and I'm going to touch on that here in the next question in just a second. But yeah, it's pretty fucking ridiculous. Just how many talents they have and how many underutilized talents they have. I forgot about Rusev and Nakamura until you mentioned them. I love Rusev and Nakamura. Asuka and Kairi have not been seen for a while. Most recent episode of SmackDown, they had Alexa, a Raw superstar, who's going to now challenge for the Women's Championship. And that's another question I'm going to touch on here in a bit. It's pretty fucking ridiculous. Like, honestly, I don't get why more superstars aren't like looking to leave. I mean, maybe they are. Maybe they're just locked in a contract for a while. But it's like, honestly, I think there's going to be a mass exodus. I think New Japan, Impact, Ring of Honor might get a boost, provided Ring of Honor doesn't stop, pissing off their fan base and everything, and actually can draw freaking crowds. It's just freaking ridiculous. It's just freaking ridiculous just how, absolutely insane it is. There's cats fighting outside, in case you wonder why I'm looking out at the window. There's cats fighting in the neighborhood. But anyway, yeah, I would be very, very surprised if more people did not ultimately leave. I think WWE is going to have a mass exodus by 2020, 2021 for sure. And we now get to 4 questions from @Melina WWE, who I enjoy talking to. Keep up the great content that you provide also. And thank you for supporting my content, as rambling as it is. So, 4 questions. Full thoughts on the wild card rule completely obliterating the mid-card talent. Example, no TV time, no big title shots, etc. The wild card rule. Wild card rule only caters to top tier talent, and it's fucking bullshit. Impending rant. Yes, and I'm going to get into a full-scale rant down the road on this. I will spend a few minutes on this question so you don't just think I'm flat out ignoring it, because it's a great question. The wildcard rule is fucking bullshit. It's taking SmackDown right back to what it was before the brand split, where it's just a Raw recap show with a few, different stars and stuff like that, but it's mostly the same feuds. I mean, Roman Reigns, Shane McMahon, and I get it. They see Roman Reigns as the big star. He's not the biggest star in the company, even though he is a big star. I mean, as much as that pains me to say, the guy has put in some work. He's still not as great as he's still not as great, in my opinion, as others think he is, but he is quite good. But he does not need to be on both shows. Shane McMahon does not need to be on any shows at this point, because Shane McMahon, and that's going to be another rant here a little bit later, and I know I keep saying that, but that doesn't need to happen. We do not need to see, and I love Drew McIntyre, but we don't need to see him on both shows. We don't need to see the Revival on both shows. The whole point of a brand split is to have multiple motherfucking people on, on TV at one time and everything. And I'm not talking about the 24/7 title, even though that's something that I've ranted on before. I'm talking about, featuring Ricochet, Aleister Black on separate shows. Apollo Crews. Apollo Crews got 30 seconds of TV time. Andrade beat him up. I won't say Andrade Cien almost. In fact, he will always be that, but he beat up Apollo Crews, and that was it. Most of the mid-card, lower-card talent has been reduced to the 24/7 title thing, or reduced to just being backstage, staying around looking stupid and everything. Most of the women aren't being used because, again, as I alluded to, Alexa just got thrown in to a SmackDown Women's title shot after they had just alluded to her and Nikki Cross teaming up to take on the Iconics when Alexa had a face turn. Nobody knows what the fuck is going on anymore. I mean, Cesaro and Ricochet in a vacuum on Raw they had a pretty good match. Raw has been generally shit. I mean, and that's kind of sad, because for 3 hours, you would think that they would have better content, better whatever, and they haven't had that. They have not had that thing, and it's fucking stupid. But this wild card rule, and I fucking knew it was going to be bad. People were like, oh, it's going to be great. It's going to go well. There were people, and I'm sure there are people watching this that think, oh, John, you're being too negative. Look, there are some times, and you've asked me about it, Elena, other people have pointed out to me also, that I don't give things a chance. There are reasons I don't give some things a chance, because I can see right through it. I can see how WWE is going to fuck it up. I can see how WWE is going to mess this whole thing up and jack all this up and fuck over a whole bunch of talents. Their women's division in NXT and Raw and SmackDown, besides the amount of talent, is essentially at a new low. A new low for the current WWE. Yes, we're out of the whole thing of 2-3 minute matches, except we're not, because even the 2 Raw women's matches weren't all that long. The triple threat that had Charlotte, Alexa, and Carmella had, Mandy and Sonya interfere, which, whatever. I mean, it's just sad. That's all you could do. You couldn't have thrown them in there and made it a 5-way elimination match. You couldn't have thrown Ember in there, make it a 6-pack challenge, or make it an elimination match or something like that. No, you just had to have Charlotte there, and Charlotte was on Raw recently with Lacey Evans and Becky. And I think Lacey, sure, okay, you could argue that maybe Lacey needs a little more work, but Lacey has improved quite a bit, and I think people are being a little unfair to Lacey. Becky, she's still Becky 1 belt. I don't think she's going to be Becky 2 belts again anytime soon because that would, A, nullify what Bayley has done and would just pretty much destroy the whole thing of the brand split. And going to, which has already been destroyed, Wild Card, the tag team champions. Where the fuck have Hawkins and Ryder been? They got destroyed by the Viking Experience at one point. Unless one of them is injured, or unless one of them is asking to be off TV for a while. I mean, I think Ryder and Chelsea Green got engaged. I don't know if they're getting married anytime soon. Maybe that's the case. Maybe that's the deal. Maybe Hawkins has a girlfriend. I don't know. Maybe they're getting married. Unless there's an actual personal reason or an injury or they just want time off, why the fuck even have 2 tag titles? Like, really, why even have that? And they called a whole bunch of people up from NXT earlier this year. EC3's been fucking marginalized. Lars Sullivan, I mean, he's beating up a whole bunch of Hispanics because that's something he can fap to. And I will be ranting about that match on my Super Showdown rant. Everything is just, it's a mess. It's a mess. I don't even remember who's on what fucking show. I mean, it's pretty bad that the ones with the most storyline consistency are NXT to an extent, NXT UK to an extent, 205 Live is putting on some big matches in front, great matches in front of dead crowds. And yet those are the most consistent brands because they're taking place in their own little vacuum. Raw and SmackDown is this human centipeded together, wrestling, conglomeration, and it's shit. It's not even that the wrestling's bad. The talents are fucking trying. They're even trying with the 24/7 title. And I know I'm kind of, struggling here a little bit because I forget to take a breath. But I knew that this was going to be bad. And if it had been different people, if say 1 week Usos and Roman could appear on SmackDown and Raw. And then next week, Cruz and Andrade and say Ember Moon could appear on Raw. And then you get Alexa, I would say Mickie James. Mickie James is on SmackDown, apparently injured. Alexa, Becky's on there, and Lacey Evans is on there. And, you just mix it up with the women and the men, this kind of stuff, and Natty going to SmackDown and feuding a little bit with, Bayley. Tell me that wouldn't be a fun match. Mixing the stuff with the tag teams and everything, because the tag team division is absolute shit. I'm going to get off this question here because I want to give more time to some of your other questions, but yes, this is probably going to turn into an impending rant at some point. I might film it tomorrow. And because Super Showdown doesn't fucking matter about the wild card rule because they got everything else going on, but nobody knows what the fuck is going on. It's WCW 2000 levels of bad. And I know I've said that ad nauseum on some shows, but yeah, it's pretty fucking shit. They've pretty much nuked most of their talent. Rusev, Nakamura, most people, I would say the Colognes, but no one really cares about them. Most of the women have been just freaking, neutralized. And that's really, really fucking sad. Because the whole point of a wildcard rule, change it up and have different people each week and everything, and you could start some feuds or have some feuds take place in a vacuum. Because now you can't say Survivor Series is the one night of the year where Raw and SmackDown go head to head because the Royal fucking Rumble exists. Royal fucking Rumble would be interesting. Moving on. Number 2. Just when I thought Stephanie was bad, I'd like your opinion on the oversaturation of Shane on both goddamn shows every fucking week. He's one of the reasons why I have lost such a vested interest in the product, because we really need a 49-year-old Shane on every fucking show hanging, hogging young talent spots. Sarcasm. You should put sarcasm there at the end. Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing. I actually regret cheering for Shane McMahon to come back to the company. Now, I'm fairly certain that part of this is Vince saying, well, Shane, you're going to go out there and be this full-on dick heel. And I think there's a part of Shane that wants to push younger talents. Now, I don't know. I'm not in Shane's head, thank God, because otherwise I'd be wondering, why the fuck do I want to dive off of things in front of my family and almost die? Shane, stop doing that. You have a family. He has a family, damn it. So, with that, yes, Shane McMahon being on TV is just fucking irritating. Absolutely fucking irritating. Because it serves no purpose. Oh, he's feuding with Roman Reigns. Oh, he feuded with The Miz. The feud with The Miz was actually fine until Mania. And then Shane won. And then you had the feud continue. And then Shane won at Money in the Bank. And now Miz doesn't seem to fucking care. It's like Miz is claiming victory or whatever. Now he's just a generic babyface. Which, look, Miz is a likable guy. He's a great father and everything. He's hard worker. I never thought I would say this about The Miz, but yeah, I'm going to put The Miz over on that. But that feud with Shane ended up doing him no favors. This feud with Roman is doing Roman no favors because nobody's going to buy Roman as a goddamn underdog. Now, he's shorter than he appears. He's not as physically imposing, but he's not Daniel Bryan. He's bigger than Daniel Bryan. And that's kind of what they're trying to create here. Roman Reigns is best booked as a badass. That is what he's best booked at, and they're not doing that. Now, I'm again not Roman Reigns' biggest fan, but for fuck's sake, book him correctly. You might actually get some good shit out of it. You're not going to get that if you have Shane McMahon hogging up so many segments and dragging down the Revival, dragging down Drew McIntyre. Drew, who is essentially a fucking lackey. Drew's about this close to being fucking ruined on the main roster. And you can't tell me that he isn't. Drew McIntyre is pretty much this close to being beyond repair. They haven't brought out Bray Wyatt for a while. They just had the Firefly Funhouse thing, which I find it funny that some people, and I think you included, that said, well, time to eat some crow about the Firefly Funhouse and everything. Look, if people still enjoy it, that's just totally fine, but I think by now, had it not been for Shane being on both TV shows, had it not been for this whole wildcard rule, we might have seen Bray Wyatt by now. We might have seen Aleister Black wrestle. We might be seeing Andrade wrestle more. Balor, Apollo, none of this 24/7 bullshit. Had they not done the wildcard rule, the 24/7 title wouldn't be around. I know some people like it, that's fine. That's okay, but Shane being on TV is just fucking bad. It's fucking rotten. It really is fucking rotten and does not serve a purpose. Drags more people down than it should. And again, Shane's getting paid quite a bit of money. I think it's over $1 million, probably close to $2 million a year, and he's got to wrestle some and everything. And I think maybe he doesn't want to wrestle because he really doesn't look like he wants to wrestle anymore. I can read eyes pretty well, and it looks like maybe he wants to retire, just being a backstage role or whatever. Maybe he wants to leave the company. Who the fuck knows? But if this is him simply wanting to stroke his ego because he thinks that he's still the best professional wrestler in the world, which he never was, even though he has a trophy saying he is the best professional wrestler in the world, he is dragging a lot of segments down. It's not even go away heat at this point. It is just, I don't care who does it. Just somebody write him off TV. Just somebody write him off TV. It's 1999. I just watched Raw and Nitro like a couple days ago. And you had the corporate ministry and Vince McMahon and everything, and the McMahon's dominating television. 20 years later, nothing has fucking changed. And that's what's really fucking sad. Now, a lot of that is the USA Network. USA Network apparently thinks McMahon's draw ratings. The ratings are at an all-time low, especially for this era. They are losing ratings. They are losing rating points and audience members left and right. And shout out to Valena for doing a video about what she would do to fix the ratings problems. I think it was like 9 ways that she would fix it. That was a really good video. The whole point of this is, with Shane, I think it's to create a heel for Roman Reigns to overcome. You have that. You could have him beat the Revival in like a 2-on-1 match at some point. Even though that would kind of make the Revival seem like chumps. You have enough of a roster to do this without including Shane McMahon. Because we're supposed to be the authority, and we're not. Because if we were the authority, none of us would be writing down, Shane McMahon to be in about 8,000 segments on every show. It's rotten. It's bad TV. It is really bad TV, and it's taking, not even younger people, just people that could be familiarized with the audience really, really quickly. But nope, we have to include Shane McMahon, sweaty dumb bastard that he is. No, we got to include him there. It's just fucking ridiculous, and I fucking hate it. And I'm probably going to do a rant about that at some point. In fact, I might just do another rant about the current WWE product and just focus on the wildcard rule and Shane, and you know what? I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that at some point. Thanks, Valena. Thank you for inspiring me for that. And let's see. Question number 3. These last 2 will be a little bit quicker. How do you feel about Golden Girl Alexa automatically gaining a shot at Bayley's title via the wildcard rule? Again, the lovely wildcard rule. And taking the spot over Ember, Liv, Sonya, Mandy. Yeah, where the fuck was Liv on SmackDown, by the way? She implied she was going to be on there. What the fuck does this company see in Alexa to receive this extreme, basically, what does she deserve to it, what has she done to deserve all this, all these accolades and everything? Vince likes blondes. That's not Alexa's fault. Alexa is not that good in the ring, but she's good on the mic. She'd be perfect as a manager. The problem is she's also made of glass. She constantly seems to be getting injured. And look, when the injury bug bites, sometimes it doesn't let go. And I don't want Alexa to end up being, unable to do anything in her life. I want her to be able to have a career and have a life. So hopefully, the injury bug doesn't keep biting her. As for what they see in her, again, Vince likes blondes. And probably sees her as a big potential superstar. The problem is she's not that good in the ring. And has never been that good in the ring. But her character work and her gimmick work pretty well. As far as why she's facing Bayley, people are fucking stupid. Vince, whoever came up with this idea, whoever's pushing for Alexa to be, the one to face Bayley, it didn't work in 2017 when they feuded. Why the fuck's it gonna work now? Oh, they're rebuilding Bayley. Okay. You do realize that Alexa could beat Bayley at Stomping Grounds. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. I know we're a couple weeks away from that. I don't think it's going to happen, but I fear it could. And if that fucking happens, that's going to undo everything with Bayley, and Bayley's going to be done. If Alexa beats Bayley, that is it. You got to have Bayley have a long run, have her have some good matches, face fresh opponents and everything, and, dethrone or, take Alexa off of her throne and just knock her down and everything because, she's not so much a goddess. She's basically as mortal as they come. She's not the answer. And I know she's only in her mid-20s. I'm not trying to write her off, but injuries and a whole bunch of other stuff, I have no other explanation other than she's blonde and the office likes her. I won't say she doesn't work hard. I'm sure she's actually trying to take some big bumps and get better in the ring, but some just aren't cut out for it. And she's not cut out for it. I really have no other explanation other than Vince likes blondes. Because really, there's no other reason why, even Liv, who I'm not the biggest fan of, but has improved quite a bit. She's won me over. Liv could be competing against Bayley. Mandy, Sonya. I would have Sonya take it from Bayley at SummerSlam, because Sonya at least would be a better choice. Ember, Mickey's currently injured. Bring Natty over and have her face Bayley on a pay-per-view, something like that. I know she's on Raw, but still. Just, not Charlotte, not any of this. So Charlotte and Lacey are probably going to go back to forming the tag team at some point, which I actually think would be the best place for both of them. If Lacey does not beat Becky at Stomping Grounds, I assume that match is going to happen. As far as Alexa, I just have no explanation other than Vince likes blondes. It's because other than that, she's not that good in the ring, so what the fuck other reason could there be? Does she work hard? Sure. But there are plenty of other women. There are women in NXT that deserve more of a shot at Bayley than Alexa. So, yeah, the entitlement, or not the entitlement, but the favoritism is a little bit nuts. And number 4, and also she was just a face on Raw. Teaming, seemingly going to form a team with Nikki Cross. So is she going to be a heel on SmackDown and a face on Raw? What the fuck kind of thing is that? They're in the shows are in the same fucking universe. We don't need to see a person play 2 different roles. That's not what we need to fucking see. Anyway, number 4. Since WWE has seemingly let Elias flop, do you think he'll need to reinvent himself with a new gimmick soon? It seems as though this gimmick has run its course. No fault of his own. WWE didn't push him to the stars. He did what he had to do. It's their fault for not recognizing his blatant star power. I don't know what else you can do with him. I think this gimmick is the gimmick stale right now. Yes. Can the gimmick be salvaged? I'm gonna go with Durr's mindset. I think it can be salvaged, and here's why I think it can be salvaged. Give him some quality wins, and not for the 24/7 title and this kind of stuff. But he's on SmackDown, right? Have him beat Balor for the Intercontinental title. Have him hold the championship, assuming, of course, that Andrade does not beat, Balor in Saudi Arabia for it. Have Balor face Elias and, build a program at SummerSlam. So Elias might have to putter around for a little bit. Elias beats Finn. Holds the championship till about the Rumble. Has a good performance in the Rumble. And maybe he's only competing in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal after that, but then you could kind of fix his character with a 5-month reign that people might actually care about. And Elias could do, a performance thing, but he could do open challenges, this kind of stuff. There's a way to do this. I always go back to the open challenge thing because it actually worked in 2015 and, other subsequent years when they brought it back very briefly. But Elias could do it. Hell, Elias could win a tournament or something like that to be the number one contender to face Balor. There are ways to do it. Or have Elias and somebody form a tag team, have them take the tag titles at some point, like say Heavy Machinery beats Bryan and Rowan at some point, and Elias becomes tag team partners with somebody. I don't know who the fuck it would be, but they become tag team champions and hold them for about 4 months, and they have some good chemistry and everything. There's ways to fix it. If they don't do that, yeah, he's gonna have to reinvent, and I don't know what gimmick you give him, because that gimmick seems tailor-made for Elias, and he's really good at it. But he never fucking wins. And if he never fucking wins, it's not going to matter how good he is. It's not. And that's really, really sad. Elias is not the greatest between the ropes, but for fuck's sake, he is way better than they are allowing him to be. And will he need to reinvent himself with a new gimmick? Probably. But do I think that he's going to? No, they're probably going to keep him stale. What really killed him was, firstly, not beating Rollins for the Intercontinental title. Okay, you know what, whatever. That can be forgiven. His face turned suddenly after that Raw show in Seattle. That worked pretty well. But then he turned heel soon after, like a couple months after, and that completely killed it when he was getting over as a babyface. It's a stop-start thing with him and so many others I could go on and on and on about, make this like a 2-hour-long video that would get really boring. He is on a long list of people they have fucked over, and it is really, really fucking irritating. I don't know what else you do with him. I'm not saying release him. I just don't know what else you do with him. I think there's a way to rebuild the character, but it's going to have to be him taking the Intercontinental title from Balor, holding it for a while, and, just going on a run. But anyway, so those are the questions right there. If I missed any of your guys' questions that you sent, if you sent in any questions and I didn't answer them on the last episode or this episode, please leave them in the comments. Or find me on Twitter and do that. Just send me a screenshot. Send me something. But anyway, this has been Real Honesty with John Ritlin, and I will see you soon.